This edition of Mac Voices is sponsored by Smile, the makers of world-class software like PDF Pen for Mac, PDF Pen Pro for Mac, PDF Pen for iPhone and iPad, PDF Pen Scan Plus for iPhone and iPad, Text Expander for Mac, and Text Expander for iPhone and iPad. Learn more about all their great products at smilesoftware.com. Welcome to Mac Notables on Mac Voices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, it's been entirely too long since we've talked to Mr. Bryan Chaffin, and we're fixing that right now. Bryan, it's great to see you.
It's good to be here, Chuck. It's good to see you, too. Although we didn't have our traditional pre-show politics bitch fest.
No, we didn't. And
yeah, what's up with that?
Well, we also, I think we're kind of off our game because we didn't get to have one of our usual until way past midnight discussions of politics and other things at CES this year. You decided to hang out at home and man the Mac Observer guns, if you will.
Yeah, I was manning the TMO fort, unfortunately, so I missed you at CES and yeah.
Yeah. So we'll make up for it later, right?
All right.
So how's everything with you? What's new in your life, in your tech life, of course?
My tech life, of course. Well, been busy working. The TMO thing, having fun with my hobby of Bitcoin faucets and just I've been writing. I got 2,300 words written this weekend, which is a lot for me for a short story that I'm working on. And that's kind of been my life.
Good. Well, I would be remiss if I didn't mention your sartorial life with the new hat and the red band and all. Very nice. Very nice.
Red crocodile.
Red crocodile. Okay. Brian Dundee. No, never mind. That's not going to work.
No. This is a cowboy hat.
Yeah, it's a cowboy hat. But I was going for the red alligator thing.
Which if you have heard me complain about my home state of Texas so often. I'm surprised the first thing you didn't do is ding me for wearing a cowboy hat.
Oh no! You adopted the hat thing at MacStock last year, and everybody loved it. It created a whole new you.
Oh, was I wearing it? Yeah, I just started wearing the hat.
Yeah.
Right before MacStock.
Yeah.
Yeah. See? And I got this hat. That hat I got in Texas, and this hat I got at a custom cowboy shop in Carmel, which is like the antithesis of cowboyness, but whatever.
Yeah, the Carmel cowboy. No, it doesn't quite work.
Exactly. No. Carmel by the Sea. They prefer to be known by their proper name of Carmel by the Sea. Thank you very much.
Okay, got it.
But Sonny Bono was mayor.
Yes. And I think Clint Eastwood was too, isn't he? Or wasn't
Carmel?
Carmel, isn't he?
Clint. Let's. We have this thing. What do we call this? The Google.
Yeah,
was
I've heard of
mayor of Carmel by the Sea. Yeah.
Yep. There you go.
In '86.
And talk about the opposite ends of the spectrum: Sonny Bono and Clint Eastwood. Wow, that's about as far apart.
They were both conservatives.
That's true. I guess Sonny wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He was a Republican.
Yeah. You brought up Bitcoin faucets, and I've been anxious to talk to you about that very subject. Because the whole faucet thing, I mean, you and I have talked plenty of times about Bitcoin here on the show and what it does and how it works and why it doesn't make a lot of sense for individuals to be mining anymore unless you're going to invest a lot of money in it. But what is the deal with the Bitcoin faucets? How do I go? Why should I get involved with Bitcoin faucets? Does it make any sense for me?
Well, it's not going to make you rich. Bitcoin faucet. What a Bitcoin faucet is, they come in different forms, but basically they put up a page full of ads, and they'll give you what is usually some kind of random number generator, and you get a few satoshis based upon the random number that you get. You can do it once every 5 minutes or once an hour, or all kinds of different time increments. And it's not the sort of thing that's going to make you rich by any stretch of the imagination. But if you want to get some Bitcoins and you don't want to pay your fiat money, your dollars, or euros for European listeners. For them, it's a way to get them. You're basically trading a little bit of time for a very, very small amount of satoshis. And I like the most popular article we've ever done at the Mac Observer is our Bitcoin faucet guide, where I track faucets that actually pay when they say they'll pay, and pay the amount that they'll say that they'll pay, that sort of thing. And then there's other things you can do with them too. Some of them have what are called offer walls, which are not unique to the Bitcoin world, but an offer wall is basically going to be some kind of task that you can do and that you will get paid. For instance, you can get paid to download and install an app on your iPhone, or to take a survey. I like to do one where you're being paid to visit web pages. And, people are basically buying traffic, as it were. So, those pay you a lot more than usually the actual faucet that is on the same site does. But then the faucet sort of acts as a lure for the offer walls. But, it's fun. It's a hobby. It's a hobby that pays me instead of me paying for the hobby.
A lot to be said for that. So how big a security concern, how big a security concern are there for, downloading and installing anything would concern the daylights out of me. Clicking through ads that are of a questionable nature. And in this world, I don't know what a questionable nature means.
Well, sure. So the Bitcoin faucet world definitely has a lot of malware in the ad networks, because especially the ad networks that are not human monitored or human curated. And you've got to, you need to go into any Bitcoin fauceting with your eyes open. And, you need to know how to, be able to close a malware page.
Right.
And you need to know how not to install the Flash update that they would really like you to install.
Oh, they're still using that? Oh, wow.
Oh yeah. I let's see. Let's actually look at my download folder just for grins. Let me find it's organized by size. Let's see here. 17. I have 17 Flash installers in my download folder right now. Or, Flash installers, I should say. Yeah. So yeah, you need to be smart when you're doing this sort of thing. And installing apps, by the way, I'm talking. So for an offer wall, what I mean is that they do Android and iOS apps. I, of course, don't ever mess with any Android apps, but it's the sort of thing where they will give you a link to the App Store, and you're downloading the app from Apple.
Okay, that would make me feel a little better.
Well, it's not for everybody. Some people aren't going to want to install apps, and some people aren't going to want to take surveys. Surveys pay the most, but then there will be, like, if you were doing Bitcoin faucets and you wanted to try Hulu, you could probably get paid quite a few satoshis to go and start a Hulu trial, for instance.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, and that would be a legitimate one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, no, the offer walls tend to be pretty solid. They might have some links that are going to take you somewhere you don't want to go, but by and large, the offer walls that are surviving, because if no company that is super shady at this point is going to be able to stay operating. So
if I can earn Bitcoins in this way, why can't I earn cash in this way?
You could. There are sites that will pay you in dollars to do these exact same tasks.
Article idea.
Fair enough.
just because, a lot of us are still struggling with the Bitcoin world a little bit, I guess.
Well, there is, I think, there's a bit of a difference between, getting paid 3 cents and getting paid 1,000 satoshis. At least here in our first world. right? So it's the paid to click industry is the sort of catch all for the industry name, and they don't pay a lot. It's, again, I see it as a hobby that pays me instead of a hobby that I'm paying for.
So what are 1,000 Satoshis worth right now? And I've realized we've seen a run up since you and I talked last. There was a run up in the Bitcoin market, then a run down. I have no idea where it is now, and I certainly have no idea what a Satoshi is worth at the moment.
So a Satoshi is to the 8th decimal place for a Bitcoin. That is the smallest name that we currently have. It's the smallest denomination of a Bitcoin wallet today. And I'm looking on GDAX. Bitcoin is at $10,386. So let's look at a Satoshi. 1,000 Satoshis would be 1,386 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. That would be 10 cents.
Okay, 3 cents versus 10 cents. You're right. That's a pretty big difference.
Well, all right. 10 cents versus 1,000 Satoshis. Actually, that's actually what I meant. Okay. I mean, it's all the same thing in dollar terms, but my thing on Bitcoin, Chuck, is that I'm less worried about what a Bitcoin is worth today and more interested in what a Bitcoin is going to be worth in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years.
So you're speculating in Bitcoins is what we're talking about.
Yeah, to a large extent.
I mean, it's not a lot different than buying stock in a startup that you happen to believe in.
Yeah, except for I like to get my Bitcoins through Faucets.
Okay.
Can't get Apple stock on a pay-to-click site that I know of.
No, you can't, but you would have to pay for it with dollars and cents, but there's still penny stocks out there.
Yeah, that's true. There are penny stocks out there. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, my thesis is that in the 2 to 5 year time frame, Bitcoin will be worth, in 2 years, I would call it $50,000 or zero. And in 5 years, $100,000 or zero. And it's a non-trivial chance that it'll be zero.
Yeah. I mean, at some point, as popular as it has become, it does seem like there's a place for it or other cryptocurrencies in the market, whether it'll be Bitcoin or not.
Here's the thing that Bitcoin does, man. This is what people don't get. People who say that Bitcoin doesn't do anything and has no value, they're wrong. What Bitcoin does is allow a trustless transaction. Okay?
Okay.
I can send you Bitcoin, and once I send it, I don't have to trust in anybody that it's going to get done. You don't have to trust in anybody that's going to get done, although you have to trust me to send it. But the system itself is trustless. It requires zero trust of any party whatsoever. Okay, there is no other financial system on the planet that can provide that.
No, but you still have the issue on the other end. If you're sending me Bitcoin to pay me for a set of headphones, you have to trust that I'm going to send you the set of headphones. Yes.
That's true, but the financial transaction itself is trustless, right? The mechanics of how we handle things in the real world are not. The big thing that's even more exciting is the area of smart contracts, where you can actually include stipulations on some kind of agreement. Like, for instance, we could have a business agreement that was, where I'm going to pay you. I'm going to pay you for, if this condition is met, you'll get paid this much, and if this condition is met, you'll get paid this much. If these conditions aren't met, then the money comes back to me, and all this can be completely trustless. You could have ownership set up in a smart contract. You can have completely transparent records that will be in a smart contract. I mean, there is a lot that Bitcoin does that has never been possible before, and not just Bitcoin, actually, Ethereum or Cardano ADA. That's one of the ones I'm really interested in. There's a lot that these things do that you cannot have done before.
And I mean, from what I've read about Bitcoin, from what you've taught me here on the show, I get that. It makes perfect sense. It's still a matter for a lot of the folks who are listening to this and watching this that they aren't quite sure about how to go about getting started with it. And so,
sure.
If somebody pays me 10 Bitcoins, which would be a very nice thing to pay, and
if anyone would like to do that right now, do you have an address that they can send it to?
I'm sure we could figure out something. Yes. Chuck at MacVoices.com. We'll figure out something. But okay. So now you've sent me those 5 Bitcoins. Well, what the heck do I do with them, and how do I turn them into something?
Last I heard, it was 10 Bitcoins. But go ahead.
You're right. Sorry, can't do my math. Thanks. Thank you for calling me out on that. But so what do I do with them? I mean, I hold them, and I understand that there are accounts that you have, just like you have an account at the bank where you hold your money. But it still is not quite mainstream enough. It's not quite as seamless or as familiar, maybe, is a better way to look at it, as dealing with cash.
Yeah, it is. It is different, and that's actually one. So one of the promises of Bitcoin is that you can be your own bank. It's actually the tagline of blockchain.info, which is one of the online wallet services. You can be your own bank, and that could actually be a threat to some people. It's a promise to some, and it's a threat to others.
Right.
Right. I mean, because you're responsible. You're now responsible for your money. You're responsible for your security too.
Well, everything.
Right. So, and again, to some people that's fantastic, and to other people that's terrifying. And there's no regulation. There's almost no regulation, and essentially zero regulation. And there's also no there's nothing like the guaranteed. What's the quasi federal system here in the States that actually that backs some of the money that we have in our banks? Guaranteed Trust Corporation. Am I getting that right?
Think so. I think it's
the idea of your money being insured when it's in an account.
Well, that's the FDIC.
FDIC, and that's the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation.
Right.
Yes, yeah. That's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
So there's none of that. And people have had their Bitcoin stolen from exchanges or from online wallets who were either nefarious in their purpose and implementation and design, or sloppy, and their security was lax. And so again, it's a promise to some people and it's a threat to others. And the reasonable people can absolutely and positively disagree on that.
Yeah, I'm not even sure there's disagreement's not the word I was looking for, Brian. I guess comfort is the level I'm looking at, because if I'm going to invest any significant amount of time in acquiring Bitcoins one way or another, or accepting Bitcoins for that matter, then I want some reasonable assurances. And at this stage, I probably would want to convert them into cash for all the reasons you just said. I'm not well versed enough in the security aspect or knowing what is a credible bank. I mean, right now I figure if I go down to the local trust department or local bank, I've got a pretty good idea that I'm going to be okay. But if I go to something.info or something.com, maybe not so much.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. And I will crib some notes that I heard someone else say on this. Someone probably a lot smarter than me, who said that normal people. He was referring to people asking him if they should, put money into Bitcoin, and he said, "Well." Anyway, I'll stop trying to channel him. His advice was that normal people should maybe consider having 2% of their wealth invested in Bitcoin in case, or in different cryptocurrencies, in case cryptocurrency enthusiasts aren't wrong.
Oh, I think I either read that article or I've heard you channel that before. And I don't think that's an unreasonable thing at all. It's a question of how do I go about it? I mean, right now, as far as I know, my broker nor my bank will assist me in procuring and holding Bitcoins.
Yeah, well, there actually are now U.S. futures. So those are going through the financial institutions. But you're right. Your bank's not going to help you buy any Bitcoin. You got to talk to a nerd friend like me.
Yeah. And I mean, hey, we all know that the nerds kind of won the battle. I mean, the nerds rule the world now. It's a question of having the nerds make it a little easier for the quote unquote normal people to get into
this. Coinbase has done that. Coinbase has actually made it really, really easy for you to sign up with an account, verify your identity, and then hook your bank account up and then buy Bitcoins. And they'll hold them for you too. You're trusting Coinbase because they're holding the keys to your encrypted wallet, right? So that's actually not a trustless system, and Coinbase hasn't had any major breaches yet. They actually did have a problem recently where some banks there was a change in the way a couple of regional banks in the U.S. were handling the charges, and some one-time charges got repeated a bunch for some people, so they emptied out their bank accounts.
Whoa!
And gave and now lo and behold, they have more Bitcoin than they were anticipating buying. That ended up getting resolved. The banks, it was actually the bank's problem and not Coinbase's problem, and the banks ended up reversing all of the charges and including any fees that were associated with suddenly empty bank accounts. So it got resolved, but that is an issue. Again, that wasn't actually even Coinbase's fault. But anyway, my point is Coinbase hasn't yet had any security breaches, hasn't yet had any major scandals. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're a huge target. They're a massive target for hackers, obviously.
Right. Well, so is Equifax. So a lot of things that have been hit.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, so are the banks.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes you start to wonder. I mean, the sophistication that is out there. I applaud the small regional banks because they're fighting a battle that is difficult for the big banks to fight, and yet they have to do certain things to remain in business. So I'm optimistic that they're doing that because we haven't seen any. But if anything should go wrong, you do have the FDIC to cover it, and that's something Coinbase doesn't have.
Depending on how rich you are. There's a cap on what the FDIC covers.
Oh, absolutely, in each account or each bank. So if you're smart, if you have the funds to make it appropriate, then
if you have enough money
to
worry about the FDIC's limits, you probably don't need to be taking financial advice from you and me.
Yeah, good point. Okay, well, that just shot the daylights out of the last 15 minutes or so. MacVoices is sponsored by Smile at smilesoftware.com, the makers of world-class software for the Mac and iOS. If you've been listening to or watching MacVoices for any length of time, you know that Text Expander is one of my favorite utilities and is definitely my most used utility. So what's so great about Text Expander? First, it saves you time. Everyone has things that they type repeatedly: names, addresses, phone numbers, email signatures, and lots more. Text Expander lets you assign short, simple snippets to trigger any of those from within any application. 3 or 4 characters could expand to pages of text or code if you want them to. Second, because everyone has items like those, everyone can take advantage of Text Expander with almost no learning curve, and that's not something you can say about many productivity utilities. Third, because you do have to set up your snippets, it takes some time to recognize those items that you repeatedly type. Text Expander helps you with that by watching what you type and making suggestions about snippets that you might create to help you take more advantage of the program. Fourth, there's so many ways to use Text Expander beyond its nom de guerre. Autocorrect things that you frequently mistype by creating a snippet. Correctly capitalize proper names by creating a snippet. Create auto-filling forms. The list just goes on, testifying to the depth of Text Expander. Now, I could go on and on about all the other capabilities of Text Expander, about how Text Expander is available to use in virtually every single program on your Mac, about how you can sync your snippets between your Macs so they're always available everywhere, about how you can sync your snippets with your iOS devices to use them there, but I think you get the idea. So here's what you do. You visit smilesoftware.com right now, download a free trial version, and get started. Make a couple snippets, and then use them. That first time your first snippet expands to whatever you've set it to be, you'll be hooked, because you will immediately understand how powerful Text Expander is and why I don't use it every day. I use it multiple times every single hour I'm working on my Apple devices. That's Text Expander for Mac, one of the truly great software titles by Smile at smilesoftware.com. Check them all out, but please check out Text Expander. You won't be disappointed. Thanks to Smile for being the longest-running sponsor of MacVoices. So let's go to something we both know a little bit about, and that's Apple's HomePod.
Well, that's new and different. Okay, let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, I know you've talked about it a bunch on the shows you do. I've talked about it some here on MacVoices, but you and I have not talked about it. So I'm anxious to know what your experiences have been with your HomePod.
Well, so I've got HomePod set up in my home office. It's the one room I've got some HomeKit stuff in. In particular, I've got lights. As a matter of fact, let's hey Siri, make my lights red. Let's get some
all set.
There we go. There we go. And some mood lighting. Look at that.
Okay, Bryan After Dark. Yeah,
that's right. The nifty thing is, actually, I have a studio setting. Hey Siri, turn on studio lights. Hey Siri, turn on studio.
Studio, you got it.
I had my iPhone in my hand, so my iPhone actually answered. Anyway, I have a studio setting for my lights. My point is, when I don't have my iPhone in my hand, my HomePod is able to hear me consistently. I don't know if you heard me whine about this, but for lights off, I had a scene called lights out. And so I would go, hey, S lady, lights out. And she would think that I was saying, what's up 70% of the time. So I'd go, hey, S lady, lights out. Oh, just doing, and some smart ass Siri answer. And it's like, oh, no. So with my HomePod, however, she hears me correctly every single time. It doesn't ever tell me what she's doing. So that pleases me greatly. And I'm also able to, of course, she hears me from across the room a lot better and that sort of thing. So for my one automated room, HomePod is fantastic. And from a HomeKit standpoint, and I really like it. I do think that the sound profile is a bit bassy. It actually happens to be a significant improvement for me at the moment because I blew the amp in my desktop speakers, and I was watching TV through my TV speakers, and it's a small TV, so not a great listening experience for TV, and TV sounds fantastic coming through HomePod. I'm also incredibly impressed with how good HomePod sounds when it's quiet. Right, you get the same sound profile from quiet to loud.
Right. Okay.
And I've never experienced that with another set of speakers. Every other set of speakers, there's a sweet spot somewhere. And, either the highs or the lows or something is fading out as you turn it up and you turn it down. And the HomePod sounds the same low and it sounds the same loud. And I find that very impressive. Like, I'll have the volume on my TV down 10% and something will happen on the screen and my desk rattles. But it's not like, it's not like blowing me out.
I'm starting to wonder if I'm not experiencing the bass heaviness that many people are describing. I don't quite understand it because I've tried it with a variety of music, and just to my ear, it's if anything, I might like just a little more of the upper lower end, if that makes sense. I too don't want it to just thump thump thump. That's of no interest.
Well, Checo, listening is incredibly subjective, and all of our ears are damaged in different ways. And the older we get, we've got frequencies that go away.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just a fact. Like Dave can actually hear a frequency that people his age are not supposed to hear. It's on the high end, for instance. I do not hear that frequency. I hate that too. I hate it. There's a frequency that people the people who know what they're doing, they can tell your age, sight unseen, by whether or not you can hear this frequency. And I hate that. I hate that. What do you mean? I'm not old.
Yeah.
Shut up. You're not the boss of me. And, but music is incredibly personal, and listening is incredibly personal. And what one person is going to like with one speaker is not everyone's cup of tea. I can't stand Beats, for instance. I don't like Beats headphones.
I'm with you.
I know you've heard me say it. Like listening to music through Beats headphones is like dragging it through a muddy swamp of oatmeal first, and I don't like it. But there are lots of people who do, especially young people. They think it's the bee's knees.
Yeah.
So right, and when I was a kid, I loved bass heavy things too.
Brian, I'm sorry. The bee's knees. I think you just maybe showed your age a little.
Okay. I was not technically alive in the 1920s.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I just love anachronisms.
Okay.
But loving anachronisms still shows. Damn it, I'm still old. All right. Yeah. So, my point. What is my point here? My point is that listening is subjective. Sound is subjective. The expectations you bring, the history you have with music that you're bringing into any given listening scenario, all of these things are subjective. They're all personal. And one of the things that Dave Hamilton has been noting is that if you enjoy it, the end. Actually, he's never quite put it that way. But if you're enjoying a set of speakers, great. Doesn't matter if someone else does or does not enjoy them too, right? It doesn't matter one little tiny bit. The only thing that matters is that you enjoy it. And there has been some research that says, according to Dave, I haven't actually gone to look for this research, but there's been some research that says that if you expect to enjoy a set of speakers, you will enjoy a set of speakers. So it actually changes your listening experience, your expectations. Right.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, when you start putting all that together, the only thing that really matters is how it sounds to you.
And I think that's such wise advice. And if you needed objective evidence of what Brian is saying, just go out and read HomePod reviews from every site you can find. And especially the comparison reviews where they compare it to the Sonos One, to the Google, whatever the Google device's name is, I can never remember it. And it's fascinating. One site will say absolutely this is the best. The other site will say this is of the comparisons, this is the worst, and the HomePod's the best. I mean, it can drive you crazy because everybody would like to think that whatever they want to go buy the best, whatever that means, and as far as sound goes. And I'm with you. If it sounds good to you, that's fine. I mean, no, it's not going to sound like a $20,000 pair of speakers. Of course not. But is it good enough for what you want to do and how you listen to music? Right.
And in the reviews that I've read and watched on YouTube and listened to on podcasts, that's a lie. I don't listen to podcasts. I don't really have the time. But in the reviews that I've exposed myself to, I've found a fairly tight range of reactions. It's somewhere in between. These are the worst things ever, and these are the best things ever. So,
what would you consider a loose range, Brian?
Well, hyperbole is my friend. So it's I would imagine that for the vast majority of people. Okay, here's the thing about speakers, Chuck. Crappy Bluetooth speakers sell by the literally the boatload, and I'm talking about a cargo ship load. I mean, these things sell like hotcakes. We go to CES, and it's nothing. It's like acres and acres of Bluetooth speakers, and they're all crappy. They're just crappy. They're crappy, and they sell a crap ton of them. They're just crappy. I can't stand them. And I mean, there are certainly some good Bluetooth speakers out there, but my point is that there are hundreds of millions of pieces of crap speakers that are out there. You're probably going to love the HomePod.
Yeah.
You're going to love it. I mean, most people are going to love it. Most people are going to think it's awesome. If you are a trained audiophile and your ear is fantastic, you may or may not. Can't get any more specific than that.
I think that's fair. And what's interesting to me, Brian, is that everybody's been reviewing this based on what they think the device should be. They're not reviewing it as a device that, okay, this is what it is right now. This is what it delivers. And does it deliver on what it says it will deliver? Not what Tim Cook talked about.
I'm gonna push back on that, man.
Okay, go ahead.
Why shouldn't someone review it from the standpoint of what they think it should be? Well, who is responsible? At what point are we responsible for kowtowing to what Apple thinks it should be? Well, screw that.
No, I don't agree with you. If you're talking about trying to give somebody buying advice, then I think that you owe that person the obligation to review it as is. When it comes out of the box, this is what it does, and this is what it doesn't do. What is that?
Balderdash. That is the new Balderdash as of now.
Why?
Well, I completely agree with that, man. I disagree with that. When you're reviewing it, you should be bringing all your biases to it, and it's up to I think it's up to the listener or reader of your review to figure out if those biases have any relevance to you.
No, man. The readers don't. Some readers, some listeners, whatever, don't have the experience to know. And so, if you start saying negative, or for that matter, positive things,
most reviewers don't have the experience.
Well, that's a fair point.
Most of us have no idea what sounds good. We wouldn't know a good sound if it smacked us upside the head. I can't think of a better analogy, but I mean, we can't. All we can do, especially in this low barrier to entry world that we're currently inhabiting, all we can do is the best we can do. I really don't think we're responsible for what Apple for presenting these things as Apple thinks they should be presented. That bugs me, man.
Well, okay, so let me be clear here about what I meant by that. All right, I'm saying as a speaker, okay, fine, but as a smart speaker, as an S-Lady speaker, this is what she can do. This is what she can't do. All right, to say that, oh, it's a failure because she can't do this, that's where I think there's a disservice. Because I don't think that you categorize something as a failure because it can't do something, at least right now. Now, if Apple said that it can do this, it can make your coffee, and you, for the life of you, can't find the spigot where it comes out, okay, that's fine.
Okay, if for someone to say that this speaker should be able to do this, and the fact that it can't do this is a failure to me, I think it's a reasonable position to take. For instance, out of the box, this thing should have been able to do stereo with two of them, right? Apple told us that was coming. To me, that should have been a feature ready when the darn thing shipped. And it's not. And for someone to say, boy, until Apple can do two of these with stereo, I'm not interested. That's a reasonable position.
Oh, that's a reasonable position. But Apple has told you that they can't do stereo out of the box at the moment.
Screw Apple. Who cares about Apple? Seriously, I'm not responsible for Apple. Apple can be responsible for Apple. Apple can find reviewers who want to play their game. Well, I don't think it's my responsibility.
Okay. So Apple can't.
Of course, I also, by the way, it's funny. I was kind of on the other side of this exact same argument because my buddy John Keat, Pop.0, I'll get a plug-in for the Pop.0 video podcast. The first day that he got his HomePod, he was just going on and on and on about how his $1,000 pair of Kef speakers sounded better. It's like, dude, do not compare these things to $1,000 pair of speakers. It's ridiculous. Actually, I might have been a little bit more naughty in my in my choice of wording when I was talking to him. But that I thought was a ridiculous comparison. But he's welcome to make it. I think it makes him look like an idiot for doing so. And by the time we actually got around to talking about it, he had kind of, come off the ledge a little bit and was substantially more reasonable in his criticisms and likes of the thing.
Well, and I think you just kind of made my point for me, because if I compare a Volkswagen to a Corvette,
right?
Well, that's crazy.
Actually, he owns a McLaren, and so I said, "Dude, this is like someone complaining that two BMW M3s together aren't as fast as a McLaren, and criticizing the McLaren, criticizing the BMW M3s for that. It's a ridiculous comparison. Actually, I think it's like a precise analogy.
Well, again, but the M3s are fine for what they are. If you like them, and so is the McLaren.
Right. And my point, like I said, I'm kind of taking both sides of this argument a little bit, and I don't know where the sweet spot is. I think that we as reviewers are certainly responsible for knowing a little bit about what we're talking about and speaking reasonably about a device. What I don't think, though, is that we are somehow beholden to Apple's expectations. That's the part that I'm rebelling against.
Well, and expectations, no. I mean, I don't think you have the obligation to say, hey, this speaker sounds great, nor do I. But I do think that there's an obligation to say, I'm reviewing this based on what Apple says it can do. Now, not what it said it could do at WWDC last year, because Apple has not delivered on that. Okay.
Am I not entitled to complain about Siri not being able to access contacts? Because I think I am. It's ridiculous.
And I don't think you are, because Apple has not said it can access contacts right now.
But it should be able to. It should be able to access contacts. This device should be able to do that. It should be able to do that. And the fact that it can't is something I ding it for.
Well, I'm sure it will. It's okay. Believe it or not, I may agree with you. It depends on how you ding it. Okay, if you are saying this is something I would expect it can do, and right now it cannot, that's fine. If you're saying it's a failure because it can't, I have a little more of a problem with that. And that may be splitting the hair pretty fine. No, I don't see it as the same thing.
Like how many Chucks can dance on the head of a pin?
Quite a few, actually.
You are an angel to me. That's for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Bryan, the thing that's made the difference for me, and I've said this too. The first thing I had to do when I compared it to my Sonos speakers was I had to flatten out all the speakers. I had to take all the EQ settings and flatten them out, because I wanted to do just as close to out of the box as I could with everything. And I like the fact that with the Sonos. Seriously? Well, yeah.
That is crippling the Sonoses.
No,
the Sonoses can be adjusted, and the HomePod can't.
Oh, exactly. And that was my point. If I want to go through every piece of music I own or that I'm listening to and tweak them, or if I just want to tweak the sound profile overall, I can do that. And that, in a lot of cases, in fact, in most cases, if I do side by side, makes me prefer the Sonos.
Listen, if you're gonna start off flat, fine, but in my opinion, you should then go on and talk about the fact that the Sonoses are adjustable and the HomePod isn't.
And I did. I have.
All right.
And so, and that's my point, is that, okay, out of the box, here's a feature that the Sonos has that the HomePod doesn't. But on the other hand, and the killer feature for me with the HomePod is that I can walk in to the house and say, hey, S-Lady, play this. And in the middle of it, I can decide, hey, S-Lady, play that. And she does it. I don't have to pull out my phone. I don't have to go to my iTunes library. And I've said this on a number of different shows, that I've listened to more music in the past few weeks than I've listened to in the past few months, just because now it's an impulse thing. And the music sounds, as to your point, it sounds good. Not good enough, it sounds good. Could I make it sound better if I took the time to tweak the Sonos? Yeah, probably. I could also make it sound better if I took the time to unbox my Infinity speakers, plug them into a receiver, and tweak it that way too. But I'm not going to go through all that. I can listen to music and with no friction whatsoever. And I don't know how important that is to you, but it's very important to me.
Yeah, those are good things for sure.
You make it, yeah, but I mean, is that, or did you not see the value in that as much as I do? Do you have no problem with pulling out your phone and searching for the song or searching for the playlist or whatever?
I do like to browse music visually.
Okay, that's fair.
But that's super subjective, right?
Well,
there are certainly times when I want to be able to just holler out an album, or if I had, I keep meaning to put together better playlists, and I would call out playlists. Sure, yeah, that is of value for sure.
Yeah, and that to me is the defining feature of the HomePod. Because with the S Lady, I mean, I have the S Lady on my wrist, and I have her on my phone, and I even have her in my iPad. So, if I really want the S Lady, I can summon her from various different areas. The fact that I can summon her more easily with the HomePod is not a small thing. But I just don't find that to be her primary use.
Sure.
So, would you advocate buying a HomePod at this point?
Yeah, it depends on what you want it for. It is. I did a whole bunch of complaining about HomePod shortcomings in the run up to its release. The reality is that for my very specific and weird usage in my current home, it's perfect for me. But if I was trying to outfit a whole home, I'd be cranky again. But for, like automating one room and being able to listen to my Apple TV through it, it's perfect. So yeah, it depends on where you want it. Depends on what you want to use it for. If you want music in the kitchen, great. I don't think I would use it to listen to TV in a living room setting. In an office setting, it's perfect for me. But I think if I was going to, I think I would actually prefer to set up a proper sound system in a living room or home theater kind of setting. For listening to music, like again in your kitchen or an office or a workspace, I think it's going to be really good for you. For doing the limited series stuff that it does, it's good. I can speak to the air and control the one smart room that I have set up that way, and that is super important to me. So I don't know. Am I being mealy-mouthed about it?
No, I don't.
It just kind of depends on where you want it.
No, I don't think you're being mealy-mouthed at all. I mean, I think that's a fair thing, and it almost depends on the setup of your home. I mean, because where I have my HomePod positioned, it easily covers my living room, my office. I can hear it in the bedroom. Of course, it's not the ideal situation, but I can certainly hear it. I can certainly hear it in the kitchen with no trouble. And if I crank it up, I can hear it in other rooms of the house. So sometimes I can hear it in the outside in the street, as my neighbors have attested to.
I'm sure they love it.
They think it was fantastic that I bought this thing. Yeah. Where it's really going to get interesting for me, Brian, and I have no knowledge of exactly how this will work. But if the S Lady becomes available, if S Lady commands become available on Sonos with AirPlay 2, that's when I think the horse race starts.
Yeah, I am confident that Apple is going to release a slew of features over the next 6 months. Like by the time we get to WWDC at the latest, Apple's going to be rolling out a lot more for HomePod, and I can't wait.
Yeah, but to be able to control a Sonos system where now it's arguably a bit more affordable to outfit multiple rooms in the house or to access speakers I already have with that same kind of control through the A-Lady. And that's the Amazon device, folks, if you don't know who the A-Lady is. Now, all of a sudden, now we've got some serious competition. Right now, I don't feel like with the exception...
I like the color, by the way. I like the color of the wiretap. But go ahead, please.
You like the color of the wiretap?
Yeah.
You want to explain that?
Yeah, Alexa's a wiretap.
Oh, okay. Okay. I see. Yes, I should have known that. I've heard you say that a million times.
Predictable.
And that thank you. And that brings up another point. Do you think any of the issues with Siri, the issues that you see with Siri, have anything to do with privacy concerns?
No, I'm not worried about privacy with Siri. Apple has designed Siri with privacy in mind. So Apple is doing some processing locally. Information that is being sent to Apple for processing is encrypted, and it is anonymized, and Apple is not compiling a portfolio.
No, but what I meant is that the fact that it can't access your contacts on the HomePod, but it can access them everywhere else. Do you think that has to do with privacy?
Yeah, either that or security. Because as of right now, Siri doesn't care on my HomePod who invokes her. Right. So, for instance, if I'm watching a review of like a YouTube review of Siri, and I've got it going through my speakers, and the reviewer says, "Hey, S lady," she's going to respond. Right. And that's an issue when it comes to your contacts and your calendar. Because now someone could go stand outside in my window. Right. And yell in, "Hey, S lady, call so-and-so, or, what's my next appointment, or, whatever the various things that you could actually get out of your contacts and calendar. And just anybody can access them on your HomePod right now, if they could be accessed at all.
Right.
So I would imagine it's more about security than it is about privacy. And eventually we'll get it. And
either way, I'm quite happy with that. If Apple made that choice to protect it, I mean, I know there were some. I can't remember.
Give me the choice.
Excuse
me.
Me
the choice. Give me the choice.
That's not Apple
style.
Give
me the choice.
That's not Apple style, and
that doesn't mean I don't want it to be Apple style.
Yeah, but you and I both know
it's the right call. It's the right call.
Yeah, I'm still shaky on it because if you had it so that it was not a default, okay, maybe. But still, are people going to really truly understand if I flip the switch that says, "Okay, S lady, you can access my contacts"?
There is a point. There is a point at which we have to make our own decisions. Apple does a great job of simplifying these things for us. That is for sure. But if the only reason why it is here is for privacy, right? There are people who would take being able to access that stuff on Siri, just like they can on Alexa or Google Home, and that they would like to be able to access this information on Siri. If it's a security issue, it'll come, and if it's a privacy issue, Apple should give us the choice.
So you're saying Apple should hamstring itself from one of the key differentiators it has, and that is its focus on privacy. I should be able to turn off the privacy aspect of my device, and then
Dude,
most likely
you can do that with your phone.
To a point.
You do that
to a point.
What do you mean to a point? You can get contacts and calendar information on your phone through Siri.
Yeah, but Siri does a lot better job on the phone of recognizing me as me. I mean, if I held my phone up,
and that's why I think this stuff will come.
I agree.
I think that what we're talking about right now is going to be moot.
I agree,
and it's going to be moot relatively quickly.
Yeah, I sincerely hope it'll be relatively quickly, but I think you're right. But I think these are all. I mean, to your point, these devices are being set up in a million different types of environments, and I don't have enough experience to know just what the implications are of all of that. but I think it does make a certain amount of sense to proceed down that route with a bit of caution. Because, I mean, once it's gone, once your privacy is gone, the privacy is gone. You know, once somebody has accessed your contacts, they've got your contacts. And there's no way you can undo it.
I mean, they're not going to get all of them unless they're, recording.
Well,
and transcribing. But, I mean, but they could get a contact that you don't want someone to get.
Yeah.
Or, hey, yes, lady, call my girlfriend.
Yeah.
When you're married. So that could be not that I'm advocating those particular lifestyle choices, but I mean, one seems like there's opportunities for mischief there.
Well, and this was going around early on, and apparently there's something in to Apple's credit, there's something in HomePod that prevents it. But one of the listeners was saying, that theoretically you could stand by a window, yell loud enough into somebody's HomePod, and tell it to unlock the Bluetooth-enabled door.
Oh yeah, sure.
And apparently that's something that is built into HomePod that no, you can't quite do that. Good, maybe it'll come, but right now you can't, and that's a very good thing.
Yes, I would call that a good thing.
Yeah. So you still
at some point, I mean, but we want that to come.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But I wanted to make sure it comes properly and securely and not just thrown against the wall. Like, I mean, for sure. I saw today some notes about some upcoming Bluetooth speakers or possible smart Bluetooth smart speakers from other entities. And I just have to wonder about, what are these things being thought through by those folks?
And spoiler alert, no.
You and I agree on something. We may have the show right there. Bryan and Chuck agree. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, they're not, and yet that's where I guess my concern comes with Apple. Giving the option to flip some of this stuff off. Listen, I've done it, and you've done it, where we turn something off or on just because we want that feature. We want it right now to work right now because we're up against a deadline or it's a matter of convenience, and you don't fully appreciate what you just did, what you just turned on or turned off.
Yeah, I'm okay being responsible for that.
Well, that's you, but I'm not sure because you educate yourself as to what the implications of those flipping those switches are.
Oh my God. I can't believe that Chuck Joyner, the conservative, the semi-conservative, is arguing for the nanny state. And the Bryan Chaffin, the big government progressive here is arguing for users to have choice over what they can do. Like holy bizarro world. Why is it okay? Okay. There are times when it is actually absolutely fantastic that Apple streamlines our options, for sure. But then there are times when Apple should give us the choice. To wit, Apple should have given us the choice on older iPhones with degraded batteries on whether or not we wanted to have the CPU throttled to prevent shutdowns. That should have been a choice.
Okay, we're back to our relative positions because that had to be the dumbest thing that anybody. I mean, these class action lawsuits and all have got to be the dumbest thing. Because
are you kidding me?
No.
Are you kidding me? You know what the dumb thing was? For Apple to do this and not tell anybody. That was dumb.
Apple did go.
That was stupid.
Go read Rene Ritchie's thing. They did tell. They did. That information was out there. They just didn't make it explicit necessarily for users because who in the world would would say, yes, I want a crashing phone. I want a faster crashing phone.
Apple is giving us that option, man. So apparently, because of all the class actions and the criticism and the criminal proceedings being brought in France, so apparently Apple thinks so.
No,
and they should have done it from the very beginning. From the very beginning, they should have told people what they were doing, and they should have given us the option.
Bryan, this is like the warnings that you have to put on lawnmowers now that you're not supposed to use them as hedge trimmers because boneheads were picking these things up and trying to trim their hedges with them and cut their fingers off.
other than the fact that that is a ridiculous analogy, I guess I completely agree.
It's not a ridiculous analogy because this is what's happening with all these lawsuits. This is why you have, I wish I had one here, these, maybe I do actually. Let's see. No, that's not it. This is why you get a little piece of paper with 2-point type in virtually everything with warnings about, okay, I have to tell people not to be stupid, not to use an electric hairdryer in the shower.
Oh my God, there's just no comparison. There's no comparison. People can die from the electric hairdryer, and it happened. Okay, people aren't going to die from their phone, but all Apple had to do was have a screen that says, "Hey, we see that your battery has degraded." So now you've got one of two options. You may experience some unexpected shutdowns until you can get that battery replaced, or we can put it into a special power saving mode that'll keep your phone from crashing no matter what happens. And you should still get your battery replaced. That's all Apple had to do. That's not the same thing as, don't put your hairdryer in the bathtub with you. It's not the same thing at all. It's like usability. And the thing is that the solution that Apple came up with, throttling the CPU to keep these devices from shutting down when during peak loads, was brilliant. It was a clever engineering solution to a problem, right? I give Apple massive kudos for that. But Apple should have told us what they were doing. That's all they had to do. They just had to tell us what they were doing, and they didn't. And they deserve these lawsuits for that.
No way.
All this does is feed the narrative that Apple is slowing down old iPhones, which has been, that meme, that fake news meme has been in the public conscious for years. And this didn't start until last February, I think. And all it does is confirm all of that nonsense falsely. It's a false confirmation of nonsense. But Apple has itself to blame.
I can't agree with you. Of course, in the class action suits, that is such a joke. I'm sorry. The class action suits, if you join a class action suit like that, you're going to get $3.10 back if you're really lucky. All you're doing is perpetuating a problem that we have of frivolous suits. But
to be fair, some lawyers will make some money.
Well, yeah, that's the motivation, in my opinion.
But that's not the point either. Apple has itself to blame for this stuff.
Apple has made 1,000 choices about my Macs, about my iPhones, about my iPads.
They slowed people's phones down, man. You can't slow people's phones down without telling them that you're doing it. That was a wrong choice to make. Not the slowing, but the not telling. And the thing is that Apple had all of the information. In fact, this was only being done to devices that had batteries that Apple's own diagnostics identified as problematic. All they had to do was say, your battery has degraded. You need to get it replaced.
I might concede that point to you, that it would have been nice if there had been a warning that said it has degraded. But giving people the choice to turn it on and off, listen. How can't you?
Okay.
Can you imagine how many service calls, how many support calls they would have received because, hey, Apple, I flipped my switch and now it's crashing, and the tech has got to say, flip the switch back and it won't crash anymore. Won't be as fast.
So what? I don't care. Crash. Apple's got plenty of money. They can hire some more support people.
That's the wrong answer.
Because you know what? No, it's not. You know what the right answer is I don't need a phone that thin.
Down
right?
Little,
I don't need a.
Thank you.
I don't need a phone that thin. I don't need a phone that thin. Right? That's the problem. The problem is that Apple's obsession with thinness makes put these devices, put the older devices in particular, into this like situation where high CPU demand could crash the device because the battery could no longer deliver the power. Because Apple is obsessed with thinness, rather than giving us a bigger device with a bigger battery that lasted longer. This wouldn't be a problem if it wasn't for Apple's obsession with thinness.
No, listen, all that means is that this issue would not have arisen for another 2 months or month or whatever, depending on how thick they made the phone. But the issue would still be there.
No, I really don't think it would. Well, I don't know. I'm not an engineer. You could certainly be right. I don't think you are, but you absolutely, I could be wrong about that. But even if you want to take the giving users a choice out of it, notifying us and telling us what they were doing was the right thing to do.
I think we just have to agree to disagree, or at least agree on a middle ground.
Are you I think that you're facing a little bit of cognitive dissonance, my friend Chuck, because are you seriously telling me that you think it was the right choice for Apple to slow down people's phones and not tell them?
I think it was the right choice. That's the wrong question. I think it was the right choice to maintain the stability of the phone, maintain the user experience, the function of the phone for as long as possible.
Well, but that's the thing, is that the user experience was not maintained and the functionality was not maintained. As a matter of fact, you had less functionality than what you paid for.
Depending on which function.
I can't believe that you won't meet me here with Apple should have told us what it was doing.
I will go so far as to meet you that Apple should have popped up a message that said your battery has degraded. I will not go with you to the point that you give me a choice to increase my performance and crash my phone, because that puts
maintain the same performance or crash your phone.
Maintain the same performance. Okay, yes. That, to be fair, yes. To maintain the same performance or crash your phone. That is not an option that the user should be given for a dozen different reasons.
Okay, reasonable people can disagree on that, but as soon as the phone was slowed down, users should have gotten that notification.
They should have gotten a notification about the battery. And if you wanted to stick something in there about the slowdown, yeah, that's fine. But
I accept your apology.
I gotta wait. I'm gonna hit rewind and see where I apologize. I don't remember that part. I missed you at CES. We could have had so much fun.
It's true.
You're so wrong so much at the time. I love it.
There was nothing. Okay. You are welcome to think that. Yes. Yeah. That's fine.
We got it. We will do this more often. This has been, there was a bit of a drought, I guess, because of the holidays and then CES and everything. And you're plenty busy, and there are plenty of other places people can find you. And I want to make sure that you get a chance to plug every one of those places, because the wisdom just oozes out of your hat.
Didn't you just say I was so wrong?
Yeah, but you're wise right up to the point that you draw the conclusion, and that's where it flips.
Huh. Yeah, all right.
Where else can they find you, Bryan?
Oh, right. Are we done? I am the editor-in-chief, co-founder of the Mac Observer. You can find us and me there at macobserver.com. You can find me, let's see here. I'm on the Twitter at TMOBryan. I am on the Apple Context Machine podcast. It's a weekly podcast I do with Jeff Gammon, and then I'm frequently on TMO's Daily Observations.
And don't forget Pop.0.
Pop.0 with John Keat, the video podcast.
Yeah. Is that, Bryan, is that a podcast now, or is that strictly on YouTube?
Gotta bust me. Strictly on YouTube at this point. It's been a real pain to actually do what we need to do to get that on the iTunes.
Okay. No, I want to make sure we send people, and of course, folks, I'll have links in the show notes to all of those, so you can go right and see everything Bryan's doing. But I want to make clear that
at some point we'll have Pop.0 on iTunes.
Cool. Okay. That's good.
With an explicit warning.
Is that because of you or John?
Well, it's driven by John, because John chafed whenever we had John guest on ACM or on TDO. He would chafe at having to be civilized, and because John is a mad New Yorker. So so when he wanted to do the show, he wanted to do a video show, which I wanted to keep it audio because, whatever. And he also wanted it to be explicit because that is his most comfortable way of talking. but I certainly join him.
Okay, so just be warned,
Well,
folks.
you've seen me in real life, right?
Oh, yeah.
I don't allow profanity on the Mac Observer except for 5.0, and but in real life I am a foul mouthed person.
Not overly so.
Really?
Yeah, really. Believe me, I've heard a lot worse, Brian. So
maybe I'm more polite around you.
That could be.
Got to respect my elders and all.
I bring that out in people. It's great to see you, my friend.
Likewise.
We will do it again.
Indeed.
Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Notables on MacVoices. As you can tell, we're having way too much fun. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've learned a few things, and maybe we made you think, because that's one of our missions. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our MacVoices Facebook group and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices magazine, free on Flipboard. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us at patreon.com/MacVoices and join these folks who help keep MacVoices coming to you. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.